You think you are free, that your decisions are your own. Tell me honestly, did you really choose this path? Or was it chosen for you? Your father, with every triumph, every failure, was it not his decisions that brought you here? Has his path not sealed your own? Marked out in golden bricks below your very feet. The path is set. Keep your head up. Keep your weapon loaded. Follow the battle brick road.
Хоча покажу, як кожен спортсмен піднімає логліфт.
Покажи.
Можемо почати з Тірекса.
Ну давай, бачиш стіну, давай.
А, блядь, що я шучу.
I'm so sorry. And this is
Hello! Thanks for joining us, everybody who is here, which I think is like 3 or 4 of us. I say us because I have Mad Ruth with me tonight. Hello!
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for being here. It's always a little nerve-wracking doing this alone. I noticed something in my intro which still needs to be edited down and have a bunch of stuff added to it.
That's wild. I was digging. It sounded like Ministry or The Exploited. I'm just trying to figure out who that is.
That's Trust Obey, which is a guy named John Bergin, and that was the album. That's the version. There are 2 versions of that album. Album's called Fear and Bullets, and it's the album that came out eventually after working with James O'Barr. So when they did the first hardcover of The Crow, the black one, there are 1,500 copies. That CD came with it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In fact, James O'Barr is on there screaming and yelling at certain points. This thing that, what's his name? I can't remember his name now. He's like one of the best. I want to say Greg Adams. That's Greg. No, that's totally wrong. The dude with the white bleached hair here, This thing he does where he dives on his back, like that. That's actually not very easy to do at first.
Yeah, you put yourself in a really compromising position, so you better get that lock right.
Oh yeah. And so I might as well tell jujitsu stories then. So let's see. Turn on the camera so everybody can see my fingers. Yeah. So we're doing one of these dives underneath, and the 6'5" dude is working with the 6 foot dude who, I think the 6 foot dude's TRT is a little bit premature, but yeah, we'll just call it that. And oh, good, Mo Biggs is here. Nice. So we got B.A. Turner. Hello, Mo Biggs, saying, "Oh yeah, here we go." Anyway, we're doing a thing where, skipping a lot of the details, you are locking up your opponent's arm and then jumping underneath them, shoving their own arm under themselves. Okay, and yeah, you can rip a shoulder apart real easily on this one, but. So 6 foot dude was saying that the previous day he was working with 6'5" dude, and you can do it diving one leg under, or you can do it just throwing your legs in front of them, but it's the leg that's further from them. You're kind of turning around as you go down. And he's like, so he comes over to me the next day after after 6'5" dude is gone. And he's like, "Hey, Blue," because I don't know what he thought happened to me or whatever. I got a minor hip strain. And, he's like, hey Blue, if you want to hit your nuts less, you know what you got to do. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, I wasn't flying spread eagle towards a concrete post of a man. So like, anyway, it's a stupid jiu-jitsu story. How's your week going, man?
Oh, excellent. Doing really well. Like, yeah, I've been having good times. I'm newly retired, like I said, about 14 months. My wife just took a new job, so stay-at-home father and working on a comic book. Yeah.
Nice. Is it 14 months out of the military?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Now, how long have you been percolating this story for Soltac?
So yeah, it goes back to 2005 when George Lucas first said he was done making Star Wars movies after Episode 6, and when Katrina was ravaging. Sorry, my apologies. Louisiana, down in the States. That's when I first started writing. So, ironically, one of the bit of feedback I've had about Soltac was that the first 6 pages are clunky. The irony is that's actually the first 30 pages of the novel I condensed into 6 pages for the comics. Okay. So, because I didn't want to throw it in the garbage, right? Like you wrote a 30-page novel back in 2005, and then it just sort of ended up on a shelf and collecting dust because I ended up on multiple tours in Afghanistan and Bosnia, and I just didn't pick it up from 2005. But this was my place where I escaped mentally all throughout all my tours, operational. Like, with the military, you have a lot of downtime, a lot of time sitting around, nothing else to do but your thoughts to keep you company. So I just imagined if I could be a fly on the wall 6,000 years in the future, where would humanity be at? So, that's where I started thinking of terraforming planets and moons and occupying colonies across the solar system. And would there be a need for governments? No, I just pictured corporations. Everything would be corporations. A lot of elements of sci-fi. I mean, I'm a fan of science fiction, Terminator, Aliens, Escape from New York. So, I mean, it's a blend of everything that I love, all combined into a completely new story.
Cool.
Yeah.
I noticed there are a lot of sci-fi tropes throughout this book. Yeah. And many of them are very useful. We got a question from Mo Biggs. First, he has to rip me apart for boring everybody to death with jiu-jitsu. He always quotes me, by the way.
Nice. Mo's always the best. Since day one in Comicsgate, Mo's been endless laughter.
I was very happy to see you. You have a thank you to Mo in the ash can. Mo, if you didn't know, there's a thank you page in the ash can, and you're on it, like way back here. So cool. Anyway, Mo says you can do it driving one legs under, or you can do it driving under them. I must have said that. And I know I said, if you want to hit your nuts less, yeah, okay, I said that. Flying spread eagle towards a steel post of a man. Yeah, that is what I told TRT guy. So thank you, Mo. All right, he asks, did you start writing in 1983, or did you mean episode 3?
For George Lucas? No, after episode 6, after he did the last of the prequel movies. He said there weren't going to be any more new movies in 2005. That was it. The movies were done. That was it for Star Wars. Briefly, there wasn't going to be any more. So I was just like, I was like, there's going to be a gap in science fiction. But then Mass Effect came out, KOTOR came out. It got filled pretty quickly.
He's making fun of you because the prequel movies were 1, 2, 3, and they came out later. So
Right. He's got me. He's got
Yeah.
me. Yeah. Episode
Anyway.
3. You are correct. Yes.
Mo says you're welcome. All this talk about driving into men, lol. I tried to think of another story earlier, and I just knew that if I explained how I stubbed my middle finger today, as the large guy, the opponent, was sitting and I was standing, and starting to squat and blah blah blah, and if I came across the phrase in my head, I was trying to get into his legs, that Mo would just like lose it.
Wow.
Mo might die. I don't want Mo. I want Mo here. So, okay.
How much time do you spend at the gym in a week? Like, that's something I got to get back into.
Lifting, I go about 45. I can lift for about 45 minutes a day because I'm doing not supersets on the same muscle group, but an A, a B, and then at least 3 minutes of rest, and then cycle that through all the whatnot. There's a lot of specifics in there, and then jiu-jitsu is as much as possible daily at lunch, and sometimes I'll go to an evening class if I miss lunch, or if I'm going to be traveling for work the next day or whatever. I'll get in a little extra. So up to 6 times a week.
Oh wow, a couple hours a day, nice.
Yeah, and I still suck. So
Still, I miss that adrenaline rush. Like, I gotta get moving.
Well, you said you've been out of the military 14 months.
Yes. Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, but this here we go.
Oh, so yes. So in its current iteration for Soltac, what brought it back? Sorry, I didn't finish the story. So
sure,
I've been churning it in my brain since 2005, but when COVID started, March 2020, my friend Ben Steamroller, who was an engineer at the university, he was looking for extra money. So he knew I'd been writing this story. So he reached out to me March 2020 because obviously everyone's out of work. Is like looking to pay the bills just like everyone else. He says, hey, you ever going to do anything with that comic book of yours or not? So me and him, starting from March 2020, did the first original 8 character sketches in that book you just showed. Ben did the first 8, and that's what actually kicked me to start doing this, to finally start creating. And between discovering Comicsgate, reading Stephen King on writing, how to draw comics the Marvel way, how to make comics, learning about sequential art, studying all kinds of YouTube and all the pros with YouTube channels, teaching how you could make comics. I decided to do it in comics instead of writing a novel.
Okay.
So
because
yeah,
comics just interested you more by then?
well, I mean, I've been reading comics since 1985, so I mean, I've been a comic book fan my whole life, but I never imagined me creating comics. So.
I gotta say, you picked a good artist. Although this one makes, what's his name? Dexter. I had to write down the names. I got them written. This one makes Dexter look like a midget.
Yeah. You'll notice Gonzalo changed his design up a little bit from that one. Yeah, that's Gonzalo's version versus Ben's version. So yeah.
And here Giles just looks like he's flying through the air. But yeah, this is a good little book. I mean, I was thinking this is better than trading cards, to be honest, in terms of trying to get people all this about the character. Yeah.
I enjoyed making the half issue, and it did really well. Yeah, if I would recommend to people, if you can, like, I threw that together myself, so there was no editor on that. That's completely me working my way through making a book.
Cool. Yeah. I just remembered, because I had to cough and mute my microphone. Apologies to the audience if you can hear kind of a dentist drill it's been described as. I'm having trouble with my Windows installation and don't know why it's hissing all the time. So my apologies. Okay, and if you can't hear it, great. That's just us being tortured. Meanwhile, Mo has a comment for you. That's something I got to get back into. Mad Ruth, that's exactly what Blue thought when he saw the 6'5" guy today. Anyway, they go after me. Mo, thank you for Does anyone else hear whistling? That's what I just addressed. Okay. It went away when I muted the streams. Oh, okay. All right. Man, I am not used to having a guest. This sucks.
Yeah. That's all good. I'm happy to be here. I'm like, more importantly, I'm glad, like, thank you so much for backing. Like, everyone who backed, everyone who supported my project to this day, I'm so grateful and appreciative. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Making dreams come true, especially after getting out of the military. Like, I'm like, what am I going to do with my time? And this definitely kept my sanity through COVID. So thank you.
Oh, nice. So you've had this percolating since roughly not 1983. Thanks a lot, Mo. Since about 2005. And at first, it started as a little short novel, like 30 pages.
That's how far in I'd gotten. Like I didn't like the first 6 pages of this. The part with the spaceship trying to reach near light speed and escape the solar system, and then it gets blown up. Those first 6 pages were 30 pages of like basically the first chapter of my novel, and I condensed it because I still wanted to keep that because I knew that was the beginning of the story. But then from there, you'll notice the writing changes very rapidly. Page 7, because now I'm 15 years further along in my everything, writing, comprehension, studying how to write, how to read stories, life experience,
And here's page 7 right here.
Right. And so that image is actually the very first image Gonzalo did for me when I was deciding whether I was going to hire him as an artist or not.
Oh, okay.
The very first picture he gave me was that. And I said, okay, I think we can work together. So that's why I made that the cover of my single issue 1 as well as it's in there, because it does mean something to me to see. That's the very first time I saw my universe visually.
Nice. Now this is going to be the cover for number 1, isn't it?
Yep. Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. Cool. And Mo says this is a cool looking book. Yeah. Welcome to ADHD land. I got how I wanted to start the stream, introduce you properly, and all that. Completely just jumped over. But hey, everyone! Tonight we're looking at Soltac. If you haven't noticed, oh yeah, I'm supposed to open a package. Do you mind if we pause for that?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, well, I'm here just to hang out and have fun. So,
okay. So, oops, that was the space bar. And if I don't open it, I think I've got like 2 more arriving this week. But here we are. Just real quick, I think I know what this is. It'll go faster with a sharp instrument. So
do you want to give yourself full screen? Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Yeah, I'm a little bigger. How do we? Yeah, now I'm bigger. So
nice.
What books?
Well, yeah, for books that I was going to talk about.
Oh yeah, come on. What books are you interested in mostly, like genre wise?
Sci-fi definitely am, but like I love the fact that we have so much different genres to appreciate. Like I'm digging the cowboy books and stuff out of Graham Nolan. Like I never even thought to go down that way. I like horror stuff, the werewolf books, and I'm just digging the fact that I can get a little of everything. But yeah, I'm definitely sci-fi. If you had to ask me what's my favorite genre. Cool.
I was not into horror, and I've been learning a lot about horror to where now I'm trying it because of all these different books around. And so now I'm learning there's good horror and bad horror.
Right.
Looks like this week I got Blazing Bride of Frankenstein number 2. We've looked at number 1 before. I think this is from another Canadian.
Nice.
Yeah, competition. And if this isn't from a Canadian, no offense to the dude, then you got competition with Matt Ringel. He's a writer up there. Your neck of the woods. Okay. Wow. And then he had, yeah.
Just the thing, filling up that page, making good use of that real estate, right? Each one of those pages is worth so much money. You don't want to go cheap.
Speaking of which, cheap and pages worth money. I noticed when I backed the floppies for Soltac that with the shipping, they still came out to about 50 cents a page.
Yep.
Or no, I'm sorry. I need to do math. The floppies are 32 pages, and what was it? Not 50. Yeah, 50 cents a page, I think. If I got that right. Yeah. Okay, 50 cents a page, which is interesting because the bigger books at 48 pages are like $35 after shipping in the States for 48 pages. And, that's even more expensive. So the fact that you're able to put out a book cheaply for us is actually very nice.
Thank you. Yeah. Luckily, that's because of Luke Stone and Arrow Comics. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So that was a big thing I had to explain when people were like, why did some prices adjust when I went on FMC? Well, I was able to offer things for like $5 cheaper. I'm not going to just start taking $5 from people just to match IGG. So I figured anyone who got it from IGG got all those stretch goals. They got that half issue, all those trading cards. Anyone who backed on FMC didn't get those things. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
A quick little diversion there. Thank you. Okay. And why is my screen black? What? There we are.
There we go.
It loaded. Okay. So the first chapter here that we went over, or that we just scrolled through, see if I can get my, oh man, this is a huge file.
Yeah.
It's a print file. It's not a standard PDF. So, okay. Tell us about this first unit that was the original first 30 pages.
So yeah, so interesting enough, just it's and man, this trope has been used so much. If I could go back and not use it after how many times I've seen it, but it's the standard. So planets everything's circular in my universe. So planets are circular, eyes are circular. I mean, you go into I don't want to go too geek, but the study of atoms and electrons and then how that relates to outer space and astrology. It's just everything's cyclical. So I believe, you wake up at one moment, you're born, and then you're dead, and then what happens with life. So long story short, I started off with waking up from a dream sleep, a dream state, right?
Okay.
So she's waking up from, we all do it every day. The start of your day. It's the first time you open up your eyes. Alarm clock goes off. And then I wanted it to be like a hollow alarm because, again, we are 6,000 years in the future. And then basically you shut off the alarm by putting your arm through it. And then she gives her standard, everyday routine, same morning routine, because the ship can take care of all of her basic necessities. And then she gives her first orders. So this is the introduction to Misha Atsu. That's the first character you see. So.
And we see so much of her. Now,
Yes.
then we jump, and this is page 2.
Yeah.
We're not going to belabor every page.
This is clunky. This is a clunky page, I admit it. Again, I'm a new writer. So again, I was translating a novel into a comic book, and I definitely tried to cram too much in here. But I had it pointed out that there's double narration on top of independent, thought balloons and a lot going on. Again, it was just, I had 30 pages of story. I didn't want to throw in a trash can. So the first 6 pages were just me translating that into a comic book. But yeah, it's just him being the commander of the space station and him being close to retirement and just getting a readout from his crew on prepping for this space mission that's about to happen.
So you'd say you didn't want to throw away your 30 pages, and who do you read mostly in sci-fi that may have influenced how you write?
Oh wow. So definitely I was a big expanded universe Star Wars. So Drew Karpyshyn for sure. Oh boy, that one caught me off guard a little bit. I mean, I've read Isaac Asimov. I read Hitchhiker's Guide to Douglas Adams. Like I've read numerous Childhood's End, Arthur C. Clarke. Like I've been a sci-fi novel fan my whole since my teenage years.
Yeah. One thing I noticed here is you told us in these yellow narration boxes who he is. Always an underachiever, the isolated. I actually don't know how to pronounce that
Acheron.
word. Acheron. Okay.
Yeah.
Isolated Acheron facility offered him the perfect opportunity to lay low until retirement. So it's partially characterization, partially narration, but then we get to see his attitude and how he behaves. And throughout the book, I think I thought you did a really good job of hiding the exposition and show don't tell. Right. That's what hit me. Did one of your co-creators help with that?
Yes, absolutely. So Red Valkyrie were my editors. And when I wrote this script, I can't bring to the table how much they did for me. So my thoughts are very discombobulated. I will say the same thought, like Jakub Tutu. I'm very much Jakub Tutu. I'll say the same thought twice in 2 different ways, and really it's just rather than stopping and picking which thought do I want to go with, I'll put them both in a sentence. So they chopped a lot of that nonsense dialogue. They made sentences that were should have been glaringly obviously that, wow, that's way more coherent. That's way more properly formatted. That does sound more like a conversation between 2 people. So yes, definitely. They helped me a lot. About a third of my dialogue ended up on the chopping room floor in a good way. It didn't need to be there.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you said this is your first outing as a writer, and it's like, what are you, some kind of genius? No, you had an editor.
That's right. Yeah. Did a lot of work. And I had 2 editors, right? Because both Cy and Alex helped me.
Oh, okay. Let's see. So
Cy and Shay, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I understood. I was going to let it go.
Yeah.
I got a really funny joke today at the end of Jujitsu, just that relates to that let it go thing.
Yeah.
The thing is, if somebody says something and then something funny comes of it, so you repeat it back to them, they worry. They're like, oh, but I didn't mean it that way. No. This is funny. Calm down. And so they're trying to reassure you while you're trying to reassure them that you don't need reassurance. Anyway, it was one of those, but just to bore everybody more.
I'm a very carefree person. Like, I feel bad because when I was first on Twitter, like, I was like, people probably think I'm crazy. People probably think I'm actually raging and stuff. And half the time I'm just poking fun at people. I'm just having fun, right? But no, it takes a lot to get under my skin. And if I ever upset or offend anyone, it's never my intent. I'm just goofing off.
Oh, no. Well, after I stubbed my, left middle finger this time? So, okay, because I don't know if you can tell real well, but the left middle finger bends back a little bit from high school stubbing it, and this one's more straight. But whatever. I said to my partner, who was the big guy at that moment, because I restubbed it on his shin. But I said to him, dang it, last week I didn't explain it to him, but I said last week I banged up this middle finger. What it was is I couldn't get my hand off the mat, and just as I moved forward, just dragged it, and it just all bent weird, and it's hurting for days. Anyway, I stubbed that one, and I'm just holding him up. He's like, you just want to flip me off, and of course he's joking, and so I take my middle finger and I look at him and like, dude, and I know this is stupid and childish, but that's the whole thing. And I just shoved my finger in my nose. I'm like, I am not like that, bro. Not like that at all. You're just middle finger hanging out. And he's like, you're so petty. And it took me a moment. I noticed the joke because I knew it was a joke, but for me to connect up like how things fit together, I knew it was a joke before I understood it. But it was just like, what? Oh, okay, now I get it. And then walked away. And like I had to go run errands and whatnot. And one of those errands, the most important, of course, is hit up the comic shop. So I'm in the comic shop. ADHD, things echo in your head. Right. I'm in the comic shop and I need like just an extra couple of bucks to make the card punch for the discount card you fill up or whatever. And so I'm looking at a few Superman comics and, oh, hey, they have multiple copies of this one. Now, what kind of condition are these? And comparing them and stuff. And I remember this, you're so petty. And I'm like, oh my gosh, comics are destroying what little personality I have left. This is Anyway, terrible story. Anyway, boring, but moving on. What I really liked about this, it did strike me as a typical setup, but I didn't catch it until after I read. We get into this whole scene, and we're basically introduced to the world, and then the scene ends in disaster, and everybody we just got introduced to goes away, literally dead. Right. So, it was just one of those, oh, okay, shockers. And it's not until halfway through the rest of the book that I realized what was going on here with our lady friend. How do you say her name? Meisha. Is that it?
Misha. Yep.
Misha. Okay. Were you stationed somewhere in Japan?
No, but I do. I love samurai culture, like samurai history. Miyamoto Musashi and the Book of Five Rings. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got to get into that. My samurai in my name does not come from that. It comes from a comment my dad made, but get into that later.
It's just the warrior culture. It's the one culture on the planet that's just so different from the way everything else has been.
Yeah.
Like how they held off like Genghis Khan and the Mongol hordes, and then they managed to maintain samurai, like seamlessly samurai culture up until, the Americans ended up in off of Tokyo Bay shooting cannons saying, if you don't let the Western world in, we're coming in, right?
So, oh, wow. Yeah. That is amazing. Yeah, I thought this was a great way to introduce where the meaning and impact of this whole introduction picks up again halfway through the story. Or I'm sorry, not halfway, but further into the story, we find out what was that all about.
Yeah, it all has a purpose. It's not just for no reason. Because this is what leads to why Dexter got sucked into this as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we get a little vignette on the side of him doing just whatever to show don't tell, who he is and how he behaves and his attitude and all that. And it's just him doing a previous mission, It doesn't really connect with the rest of the book otherwise, correct?
Well, I mean, he's a bounty hunter, right? Like life has very little meaning. He was a soldier for, X amount of, decades, and now he's a bounty hunter. That's what he's doing in retirement. So now he goes out and, brings in. Sorry, you're going to say something?
I was going to say, I'm sorry, I apologize. I meant doesn't connect in terms of the people he's beating up here don't come up later.
Right. No. Yeah, they're just thugs. They're stim dealers. Yeah. So far, between the first 6 pages and these thugs, the bad guys, again, life is meaningless. So besides my main character and the other main characters, life doesn't hold very meaning. A lot of
Everybody's
people
everyone's just a nihilist in the future.
yeah, a lot of red shirts. It's
We got jeez. All right, we got Mo has been talking for a while. A certain dynamic werewolf panel really won Blue over to the horror genre.
Wonder whose cover that would have been. Was that cover?
I don't know.
You got Aaron Lepresti's cover for. I want to say what book was that? I'm drawing a blank, but that was probably the first time I saw a really badass looking werewolf.
Yeah. I talked about a werewolf book that I thought needed help in the art, but was a good story intro. Like it needed growth in the art and an editor. You know, that the usual.
Don't skimp it on the editor. Like having that second set of eyes is so important, because you could read your own script like I did 20, 30 times. And I think I got everything. And someone else can come by, and not in a bad way, but completely tear it apart. And this is useless. This is useless. Way too many commas. This goes on. Not necessary. And you're just like, why didn't I think of these things? Why didn't I see this?
Yeah. Anyway, so we got Mo falling asleep.
Yeah.
And then he says, if you don't let us in, we're coming in. That's the motto of Blues Dojo. Okay. I thought it was the wood burned on the wall that says, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Back to the book. So anyway, where do we pick up in the story from here after we get our introduction?
He's just turning in his bounty. Like he managed to apprehend that guy instead of killing him, which is why he didn't kill him, because he's turning him in for money. And bringing him in, he's already invited up to the top floor, which is different than normal. So he's already sensing something's not right here. Like, why are you inviting me in? Notices that there's some money sitting on the table, and makes a comment. Whenever I start seeing shiny gear, I know that something's going on. That's sort of a tie back to the military. We always say the same thing every time we start seeing new toys and stuff. What's all this? What's this stuff for? Right? There's got to be a reason. And then that ties into people he worked with in the army going back like 80 years. Like that's another thing too. My characters lived to be like 300 years old. So going back to when he was fighting in the war, his old one of his old bosses or supervisors shows up and says, "Yeah, I got a mission for you, and don't go away." Basically, they trap him in the upstairs office, and tells him how much he needs him to go on this mission for them.
Makes him an offer he shouldn't refuse.
That's right.
Yeah. So I wonder, though, you went a direction that I thought was more interesting than I've seen a lot of other, especially new writers. And this isn't the editors. This is a direction I think you went, which was he doesn't just go on the mission and do it. He actually prepares his own little crew and does some recon. Yes. So he researches his mission. Where'd you get that? It's the worst question to ask a writer, but where did you get that idea?
Yeah, so definitely drawing on my own personal life experience. Not knocking. So humans are humans. Humans do human error. Part of my job in Afghanistan, I basically had a 3-vehicle convoy. Now, I'm not going to say I was allowed to just do whatever I wanted with my 3 vehicles, but a lot of my missions were involving VIP escort, getting people in hire where they need to go, people who need to go back to the main camp, bringing parts and vehicles and sea containers and stuff from the main camp, going throughout the various camps and getting the demolished vehicles, getting maintainers on them, fixing them, getting them up and running, and bringing them back so that I can replace the stuff in the troops. So basically odd jobs. I'm free to just wander the country on my own. And what that would afford me, I'd also stop and visit all the ANA checkpoints and talk to all the commanders. At the same time, I'm looking for enemy activity. Without getting into too much specifics, they used to call me a red SA master because I was very good at isolating, identifying where the Taliban were and various behaviors in the past that they were using. So I would go into the int giving my own information. This is going to something, I promise. So long story short, by taking it upon myself to gather my own information and paint my own picture of the enemy, a lot of higher commanders, we're talking generals, colonels, my own chain of command, were picking my brain whenever planning missions because they knew I had more of an understanding of the enemy than they did. So very much taking my knowledge as a reconnaissance soldier. I mean, I did make it to the rank of warrant officer, so I can't be too dumb. So yeah, that's what Dexter's doing, right? Even though he's been given this mission, something doesn't feel right. It doesn't necessarily jive for him. He knows the equipment he needs to carry this out, and they haven't given it to him. So he's going to get the equipment and the crew he needs, and he's going to go investigate before he draws to any conclusions that he's been fed. and definitely that's for my own operational. I once, I don't want to tie too much, but I had a general send a Chinook to a camp to pick me up, to bring me to the main camp because he wanted to ask my questions before he planned a mission. So not feeding my own ego, but that's a pretty big deal to me. Like, I'll never forget that. Somebody sent a helicopter for me, you know? So
Well, you worked your way there by doing a good job.
oh, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, so what's an ANA? Just you mentioned-
Afghan National Army.
Oh, okay. So now I hoped we'd get to your your military experience influencing the story at some point. What else did you draw out of that ended up in the book?
So definitely that you saw that little incident he had there where he was going through basic training and he was doing like an underwire entanglement and rope climbing. Like he had to pass an evaluation test at least before they would send him on his mission. Make sure he wasn't hiding any disabilities that they weren't aware of. And he passed those tests obviously with flying colors, no problem. So I said, okay, good, we'll hire you for the mission. So yeah, I tied on that, but yeah, there's a few little other elements that I just tied back to my military humor, my military experiences, but it's not I don't want people to think that this is a self-insert so much as it is just science fiction and just knowing I can comment on combat and war and stuff like that from a personal perspective.
Right. Now, I would critique this panel one little bit with me. It looks like he's just not tight enough. No.
Yeah.
But that aside, I see the tap tap sound effects there. It would be really cool if there was a word for underneath here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some little crackling noises over
Definitely.
there.
Yeah. I definitely got to add more sound effects for sure.
Not to be too critical. I'm trying to be nice. But
Yeah, speaking of books, there's Corey, and that was one of the books I was going to talk about. Was
yeah. I didn't want to, since we jumped right into it, and
it's all good.
I brought you on right away. I just got this back from some kid at the gym whose father at the local university teaches comic books as literature, and that kid, he read this thing. I think the last number he gave me was 26 times.
Oh wow! Yeah, I've read it 2 or 3 times at least. Like a beautiful wraparound cover too.
Yeah. So, hi, Corey. Not to detract from Soltac, but Corey, you have a major fan, and he did not buy your book. I took a safe cleaning cloth and cleaned this just in case. He said that after, when he first told me he had read it 14 times, I'm not kidding. He said that one of the times he got really, really stoned and then started noticing more and more details in the book.
Oh, it's so cool. Like, I'm a big Hellraiser fan too, right? So I dig the underworld and, creatures of the macabre and just, yeah, it's right up my alley. I love it.
He calls this genre grimdark. That's his name for it.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can. How do I?
Very cool.
Remove. Make big. Yeah. We like this one. Oh yeah. So this leads me to a question. Do you miss? Oh,
that's so badass. I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep.
No.
Oh, look at that. Oh man, I'm so glad they took the time to go back through this book too. Mm-hmm. At first, I was like, "What do you mean they're both going to go through every single page? And how long is it taking?" But I'm glad they did. I'm glad they took the time to perfect their work. I mean, it's a beautiful book.
After discussing this with, and I gave the little spoilers that Corey gave on my stream when he was in the chat though. But if you see the red crystals on this page in the guy's hand, which you can kind of see in my little picture, let's go even. Yeah. So those little red crystals, there's a hint to who that is on the very front of the book.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, it wasn't Corey, it was Clayton who spoiled that for us. But anyway, yeah, Corey, the dude read it 26 times. And I forget, I mean, he loved so much of it, but we were talking, and now I thought I was going to get the book back from him sooner, so I didn't write anything down. There was something about we could have done a different story instead of jumping to the daughter at the end, but do something else. And I forgot what he said. It was just more just taking ideas back and forth. And he studied this thing. Oh my gosh. But yeah, all right. Anyway, I'm going to have to buy him a copy. when number 2 comes out, I'm going to have to get extras. So let's see.
Yeah, looking forward to that for sure.
Corey says there are many more Kozor books to come. A lot of details will be built on. Cool. A lot of details that will be built on. Cool. All right. Anyway, back to our book. The streams. Yep. Here we are. So, why? How much are we allowed to spoil tonight?
Oh, you can spoil the whole. I don't mind.
All right, good.
Hey, because people watching this, they can go back and pause it, maybe read the whole thing for free. Have at her.
So this monkey orangutan looking guy is Giles. And where'd you pull Giles from? Is he a friend of yours?
Yeah. No, so I do actually did go to the army with someone named Giles, but no, it's more just like a butler name. Like I did sit for a while and dream up what would these characters' names be, and that was just the name I settled on was Giles Ducant. But so that's more of a tie back to Planet of the Apes, but like Dr. Zaius. But in my world, right, artificial intelligence, we've already had a war with them. Well, it's the same thing with meddling with DNA. So I figured anything that could be near sentient or near human, like self-aware, we would obviously take that leap and we would make them self-aware. So chimpanzees, apes, orangutans, we've made them all intellectual equals to humans. So that's because I don't really have aliens in my world, so I had to envision sort of taking creatures and making our own Frankenstein creatures and stuff. That's how I sort of came about on Giles being his co-pilot. But it's but when the spaceship scenes happen and they're traveling, every pilot needs a co-pilot to talk dialogue to. Otherwise, they're just going to be an insane person talking to himself. So
right. And I know we didn't cover this earlier on in the book, but what happens here with everything getting destroyed is the AI army which opposes humanity now, is in hiding, and as humanity is trying to work, pardon me for over abbreviating this, but humanity is working on a new propulsion system, and the AI army comes out to prevent them from getting there.
Right, leaving the solar system. Right.
So anyway, that's earlier in the book, and then we come back to that later. There's a twist I like that you did much later, and it's I think of it as the Batman contingency twist, but not deliberately. You know, it's you probably know what I mean.
Yeah, I also wrote this book too, thinking like if this is the only book that ever gets written and nothing else gets written, at least it's a self-contained story in and of itself. So it could have just been a one shot if it needed to be, but yeah.
I do like you have the butler character, which I enjoyed because he's the Samwise Gamgee.
Yeah,
that's Giles.
Yeah. Yeah, he's his friend, and he's still loyal to him in spite of the fact that he knows that he's nothing but bad for him. Yeah. Oh boy! So they get where they're going. They start researching what is. They start looking around at what he's been sent to do. I'm sorry. Yeah. By the way, I read this 3 weeks ago. I'm dying for details here. I didn't get a chance to reread it over the weekend. Sorry. Oh, happy to. Yeah.
And he's got these two little friends of his in some kind of cryostasis. Where the hell did these guys come from?
Like a lot of I don't know. Where's my imagination come from? I was gonna say a lot of mefloquine in combat and stuff, but no, I just pictured him having these two ferrets just constantly crawl around him like a fur jacket, keeping him warm, and him talking to them and them talking back and just bantering back and forth. And just imagining these two creatures, and when he gets into combat, they launch off him like flying squirrels, and they're all claws and teeth, and then they too start tearing people apart as he's blasting away. So I had to give purpose to those two characters. You can't just introduce characters like that out of nowhere. So even before they come into the story, they're causing hijinks. Everywhere they go, they cause hijinks, and
even while they're frozen, it's awesome because Giles is so worried about them, and he hides them before they're let out. And I thought it was a nice parallel to in the introduction we get to him. As a bounty hunter, I got to jump up again. He has those little spheres that he sends around that do work for him.
Yep. Like a little recon drone. The same thing. So my task as a reconnaissance is actually obsolete. I was ground mounted reconnaissance. So like my vehicle would stop somewhere, a big telephone pole would come out with like a radar dish and a camera, and doing ground reconnaissance, everything's to the lowest denominator, which is just a human being. So going under a bridge, one human goes at a time on one side, one human at the other. So if it ends up going boom, ideally only one person gets taken out. That's how all our drills are. So the whole time I was a reconnaissance soldier, like, wouldn't it be cool if we just had a little pocket drone you could pull out of your pocket, and you could just mimic it by remote control or voice command and send it instead of risking a human life. So I've been dreaming up that little thing for a while.
Nice. And in the later parts of the book, the oh god, what are their names? I just forgot their names.
Junk and Earl.
Earl, that's it. It's Junk and Earl. I like how Junk and Earl are more sentient and they have their own personality to talk back with. They're not just an AI, but they are kind of talking back at him a lot.
And they only talk in three words. They only say 3 words, but they still make a lot of use of those 3 words. So,
so
they got small little peanut brains.
Oh yeah. And the ending for them is just shocking that they get separated, and we'll get there eventually. So he's doing his recon. Man, my little scroll keeps jumping. Okay, he does his recon. Where are we going with this? He's researching. He finds the woman he's supposed to kill, and of course, her what do you call it? Entourage finds him and prevents him from killing her. Where we are here, he's just roughing people up in the town. I'm sorry.
I was so excited to finally, like, this whole time I'm building up to the 2 of them meeting, and I'm like, I can't wait till the moment happens where both Misha and Dexter are on the same page at the same time, because all this is build up to them finally having a confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I was shocked to find out that, okay, I was really trying to understand motivation here. And I don't mean I'm confused. I'm just saying, like, oh, this is deep. That's another thing I really enjoyed by the end of the book was he's being sent to kill Misha, and we find out about Misha's father later. And then towards the very end of the book, her father admits he's the one who gave the order to go have her killed because there are other things going on in the world that she needs to either be tested and have the mettle to live through, or this is the thing I'm reading into it, or because he loves his daughter, he doesn't want her to see the world turn that horrible.
Right.
Am I misreading that?
No, that's it. It's
okay.
I mean, his shogunate's a big deal. He spent his whole life building it, and he wants to make sure his daughter, as much as he loves his daughter, her being the heir, that she's prepared and fully understands what she's getting herself into.
Yeah. So that was a very surprising twist.
It's very cutthroat. It's very soulless, but there's passion and love, and you can tell these characters deep down inside they want to do the right thing, right?
Mm-hmm. So you've always wanted to write sci-fi, and now you got to. Oh, by the way, here's where they meet.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
Violently.
Yeah. Thank God she stopped him before he shot her in the back of the head, because that would have been.
Yeah, that would send a lot of things sideways.
Yeah. But even then, walking in, he knew something wasn't right. He knew, like, this doesn't add up, which is why part of the reason he got beaten so easily. But
because he's holding back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I saw that. I'm like, wait a minute. How could he fight so well before, but it doesn't look like he's fighting? It doesn't look like she's so great. It looks like he's not fighting now. So your artist did a good job with that.
Yeah. He's kind of rolling over and exposing his belly, accepting, like, I'm in a strange situation here.
Yeah. Okay. Where did I wish I had made notes? All right.
That's awesome. I love talking. I love my story. I love Soltac. Anyone who picks it up, I hope they love it too. So far, feedback's been generally positive. And again, it's my very first time writing or making a comic book in my life. So.
Mm-hmm. And do we really need to keep track of which one's Junk and which one's Earl?
Well, by the end of the book, one of them's dealt with, so you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
But...
I know. That's what I thought was great. I love the expressions your artist gave on Giles here.
Joke to Dixie Chicks there. Earl had to die, sort of.
Oh, I don't know the Dixie Chicks.
No, just Earl. Earl had to die. That's it. I threw that in there.
Yeah. All right. We get back. So you really admired the where did you come up with your in life? How did you come across your admiration for the Japanese, for the shoguns? Like,
again, I've always been obsessed with the military history. Again, growing up, I was surrounded by World War II veterans, Korea War veterans, even Vietnam veterans. Part of the reason my mom moved to Canada was, she was one of those hippies in '69 against the Vietnam War, and then took all my guns away from all my toys, like my Lone Ranger and my pistol holsters. I didn't have guns, which, as a kid, all that does is makes the kid want access to guns that much more. So,
Mhm.
you know, don't be a hippie who takes kids' guns away from your kid, or they're going to end up joining the army, which is exactly what happened, right? So, just my affinity for that, and again, eventually finding out the samurai aren't just some cool dudes with swords, but how much, at least the appearance, the outward appearance of samurai honor and samurai code, and how the soul is your sword is an extension of your body, and it contains your soul, and how you can't be a samurai without your sword. You're useless, and a lot of those principles, again, the stuff that the samurai recite. Whereas, don't think of death. Think of yourself as you're already dead. Thereby, you have no emotion. That will make you more effective killing weapon if you're emotionless. Like, it's just reading and understanding all those fundamentals and applying Bushido to my own philosophy, I guess.
Bushido, could you define that for us?
What, the way of the warrior? Like,
Or yeah, the way of the warrior. That's all I needed was okay.
Yeah.
The way of the. There are a lot of words I literally don't know. Just to confess a shortcoming, I guess, is I didn't take the nickname samurai in my handle out of anything having to do with martial arts or whatnot, even though my dad constantly talked to me about judo. But it was actually something my dad said that I thought was really interesting, especially what's funny is my dad was one of the major causes of my PTSD, and one of the things I needed to learn in order to overcome PTSD is actually something he was teaching. So, the irony is killer. But he claimed, right or wrong, I have no idea, but he claimed that the samurai had this idea that you're not in danger till the blade actually touches your skin. So even though you can see something coming at you, you still remain calm. You don't have to react.
That's right. Yeah.
And so that's I thought that was really cool. And whether it's real or not, credited to samurai, I have no idea.
Well, like I said, so I used to be like Teflon. I used to be able to be in danger and put in incredible situations, but eventually you can only roll the dice with your life so much. And like you said, eventually it has an accumulative effect. And the minute that switch goes where you no longer want to put your life in harm's way anymore, or it starts to creep into your mind, it's time to sort of stop doing that. And it does happen. Like, I can't tell you how many times I encountered IEDs, how many times I've been blown up, RPGs, bullets past my head. Like, I brush shoulders with death more than like 9 lives of a cat. So, like, yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm grateful for the time I spent in the army. I wouldn't change a second of it. I loved every minute of it. So.
Good.
But yeah, I definitely, in my 40s, I found myself on an obstacle course and I couldn't get over it. And I'm like 43 years old. What the hell am I doing over here? And I was just like, it's time to retire. I'm not a young 20-year-old spry, but I'm putting into my comic books. So.
Yeah. You said earlier something about the sword being, which I've heard before, about how the sword is an extension of the warrior's soul. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that when I saw these panels, by the way.
Yes, and she mentions, it's time for a crossroads killing. That's actually a thing from the samurai where when they got a new sword, they would have to go out and test it on a human being. It's called a crossroads killing.
Oh, wow. did not know. That's worse than, or that's just as, I should say, that's just as bad as a gang initiation here.
Just finding a random person to test your new sword on. Yeah, it sucks to be that random person.
Yeah, in the ancient world, there's a lot of just, they really knew death could come tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, it still exists. Like in Afghanistan, it's the same thing. People say these people are so betrayal. We can't trust them. It's like, no, these people, their only incentive is whatever makes them live another day. So it don't matter if it's you. It don't matter if it's the Taliban. They have no loyalty to anyone. It's whatever they got to say or do to live to see another sunrise. That's their motivation. Yeah.
Now, when we get back to her father, because she's going back to her father to find out what's up and what's going on. This is where it really built the world for me about how merged your AI and your humans and the genetic engineering had all come together. So again, show don't tell. I think you really did a nice job with that.
Thank you.
Let's see, what do we got next?
She's all freaked out.
Yeah.
Did you see there that panel you just scrolled back? I don't know, Lord Shinigami, but he's a big part of the next book. Right where you had there he is right there. He's Shinigami, actually in Japanese means the Grim Reaper.
Oh, okay.
So he's a big part of the next book, next chapter.
Oh. Let's see what else we got. I am trying to get down to when Earl dies.
Yeah, Earl had to die.
That is the best. This mission that they're on, so much depth here about trust and betrayal and underhandedness and who trusts who and why. Very complex. I don't see a lot of writing like this anymore.
Thank you. Yeah, like I put a lot of thought into this, and I really wanted to come out the gates with something that blew people away. So, thank you so much.
And if you don't mind, for anybody listening here, could you tell us what's going on at this stage of the story and why she's back at her dad's house?
Yeah. So at the same time, like obviously she was just running away because she'd been accused of being behind the sabotage and the destruction of all those near light speed spaceships. So they were trying to pin her and blame her as an assassin. They hired Dexter to hunt her down. Needless to say, the two of them had their confrontation. They realized they're both being played like pawns. They're both being used. So they say, okay, let's find out who's setting us up, is what they're doing. And it starts off with, she knows at least, Dexter had a feeling that the person who hired him obviously wasn't telling the whole story. So they got a bit more information out of him. And now they're on their way to get the truth out of her father. So she's going to give her father one last time to tell her, tell me the truth. At the same time, though, they're not going to accept that her father's going to do that. So Dexter's sneaking in the castle with his sneakiness and his reconnaissance experience. And he's going to retract the reconnaissance documents as well as any communications that he may or may not have had with the AI or with Soltac or with any of that to find out what's really going on, who set us up.
And that's what we're seeing here is the recon and data extraction.
Yeah, getting in and getting those access to those archives. Yeah.
I was surprised at just the wanton killing going on. They just kill anything.
Oh, it's got to be action packed. I mean, there's lots of blood and decapitation and violence. I mean, that's what I love about comic books.
So speaking of which, the next day she's allowed to finally talk to her father properly. So we think that with our parents, we can. There's a Christians tell a story about like some kid goes into the White House and he gets access to the president right away because that's his dad. And everybody else has to go through formalities and whatnot. No, we're not seeing that here. Yeah. We're seeing the next day she is not trying to just haughtily walk up to her father. She is going through the formality, meeting him in the throne room. And as you said, there's decapitations and whatnot. So one guy lifts his head because he's in a bad mood, and immediately just holy cow.
Yeah, there'll be no insubordinate behavior allowed, and that ties into again, I don't want to bastardize history, and who knows Japanese and history. I apologize that I'm not right with it, but there is a story of one of the shogun who took over that was paranoid of his enemies, and he thus made the leaders of all the clans all assemble. I believe it was Tokyo when they moved the capital to Edo. He made the leaders of all the clans come move into his castle because he didn't trust them back in their own areas. So that was a tie into that with getting all the lords in his throne room and having them on their knees, keeping them under his thumb, right?
Yeah. Oh boy. So the only reason I got this book read, by the way, was on some of my very long travels for work. I wasn't alone. We went as a team, and for once I didn't have to drive. So
okay.
I was like, right on. I finally get to read Soltac.
Because it's a long book. Like I know a lot of people who are like halfway through it, and it's like, when are you going to finish the other half? But I mean, it's your own leisure, of course. But
no, I think I read the beginning like 4 times. I read the middle twice and the ending once. And then the weeks go by, and now I'm feeling lost. So they finish their recon. They get the data downloaded that they need, and then we see that there is another team going after them. And I thought this was interesting how he has street level thugs, not just his formal guard and security under that you've got layers of people killing for this shogun.
Yes. Well, you hired them to, obviously there's, they want to do something with Dexter to get rid of him, right? Mm-hmm. So.
And okay, one thing I wasn't so sure about in the end of this, the person who sent Dexter on the mission, he is trying to get rid of Dexter now, right?
Yeah. Well, they're trying to frame him Shogun wants to frame Dexter so his daughter, they stop going after his daughter and blaming her so they can pin it on Dexter.
Right. Okay. That's what I'm mixing up. Yeah. Is who's pinning it on Dexter. I loved the end scene, what I call the contingency scene. Oh, this explanation here that he gives, this is just heartfelt, this page where he's telling his daughter, why I had you I sent for you to be killed was because I wanted you to be ready for what comes next. It just was shocking and amazing plot twist, all that. Another thing that made the story interesting is how he emphasizes that everybody works for somebody.
That's right.
Yeah, and now I'm really hooked for the next book to say, well, where does this go? Who's working for who?
That's right.
Well, wait a minute. If you get to the top, well, who's that guy working for? Like, how does this work?
That's a bit of a tie into Payback. I don't know if you've seen that movie with Mel Gibson, but
once, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what sort of the Payback thing is. There's always another boss, right? There's always another boss. There's always another one. He's gonna get to whoever he needs to get his 30 grand back, right? But
speaking of movies, when these two finally meet, when Dexter and Misha finally meet, to me, it was kind of like when that scene in Heat. Have you seen Heat?
Yes, yeah, long time ago, but yeah.
When the two of them finally meet at a table, you're like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Or like They Live, where Roddy Piper, who's in it? He fights, trying to get him to wear the glasses. Just put on the glasses. Just put them on. Right? Yeah.
Now that one I haven't seen. I got to look that up now.
Oh yeah, you'll love They Live. They Live. It's a great movie. Dystopian sci-fi.
Oh yeah, I'll love that. I now really appreciate all the dystopian sci-fi I've ever read or seen because we're living it now. Like we're about to go into that.
Right. Brave New World was supposed to not 1984 was not supposed to be like a manual for how to run the future of it's supposed to be what not to do. Yeah.
So they sent it. Yeah, that just blows me. I've been listening to James Lindsay, and man, it's well, I knew about a lot of this stuff before from some prior experience, but the stuff he's explaining about what certain people believe, and it drives me crazy how stupid people are. That how do I say this? Prior to that, how I learned about a lot of this esoteric crap was I started listening to conspiracy theorists, and the big problem there was logic. Yeah, I saw that many people who were into this assume that everybody involved in a thing knows every detail about the thing top down, or just the top knows, etc. And it's like, you know what? There's a lot more to just say. People have beliefs, and like-minded people tend to congregate.
So a lot of it, people don't want to know more than they need to know, because if I don't know it, I can't say it, and I can't repeat it, and I can't be, shooken down for the information. So just tell me the bare minimum, and I'll go around with hands over my eyes and pretend I don't know the truth. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, and if some of this does tie back to Marxism is a digested theology from Gnosticism, and Gnosticism and alchemy. If you take Marx and Hegel, and I finally learned I don't properly understand Hegel. Oops, my bad. But apparently, a lot of people are making the same mistake I was, and it's just okay. So this is why some people are motivated, is they have certain beliefs about the world and reality, like we have to save the whole world all at once, or nobody is saved, literally, and that gets into Gnosticism, or I should say, revamped Gnosticism, but whatever.
I just like how it's always the taxpayers who have to pay for everything, right? We're just going to give all the corporations a free waiver. We're going to overlook their pollution. We're going to look all the mass production of plastic and non-recyclable crap that they build that doesn't even manage to get sold, that just ends up in a landfill. Like, you really want to fix the environment, it starts with the corporations and the billionaires, not with the poor taxpayers, but they'll never admit that.
We have a sustainability office where I work, and they are the most uneducated morons I've ever met. They literally came through the whole organization, multiple buildings, to say, okay, we're going to take away your trash bins and your recycle bins and give you fewer so that you produce less waste to go in them. Like, wait, so if I don't have a place to put the trash, I won't make trash?
Right. This is paradox in their philosophy. Yeah, if we make gas super expensive, you won't need it as much to go to the work and go to the grocery store and do your day-to-day things. I'll still need it as much as I need it now. Yeah, it'll just be more expensive.
We got to move around somehow. If you want me in so many places in so much time, that's energy. What we see here is Dexter. I almost said Drax. What the hell?
Yeah.
Dexter being exiled to another planet where we've
Mars.
got the Strife
AI
Scales.
horde. Yeah, AI horde. So again, all those characters had to find their way into this book because this book is a big introduction book. Like I crammed so much stuff in this book: character introductions, an introduction to my world. I went from one end of the solar system all the way to the end and then back again. Covering all the main characters so that we know who they are, so that next books can just be more seamless. So yeah, this is Dexter being kidnapped and dropped off to the AI horde for disposal.
Yep, and then we meet finally the big. This reminded me of Madeleine L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time. This guy, I don't know why.
I've been told Krang too. It's Krang.
Well, that book scared the hell out of me when I was a kid because I was too young when I read it. So it's funny. It's always like in The Giver. It's always the communist scenes that just scare the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Hello, broken compass. I forget who that is. I forget your name.
James.
Anyway, sorry.
James.
Yes. James. So this was. Oh, hey, we're back with her. Okay, why do we have Soltac at the bottom here?
Yeah, this is me again. I don't know. It's just me logo placement. I keep thinking if I keep throwing the logo in there, but yeah, I've been told that some people that was a little overkill and not required.
Yeah, to me, it's sort of just disruptive. Like, is this a cover? Is this a that sort of thing? However, where we
Trump
go
that up to my, I haven't made a comic book before, so.
Oh yeah, all right, you're forgiven. You made the correct excuse. You bowed 3 times. We're good. So. I love this that they take him prisoner, but he's still got his little ferret running around.
Well, it says the previous panel, let the abomination. Like I had an explanation. Let the abomination go. They'll both be dead soon enough. Yeah, right there. He's bottom one. Let him go. Like he's squeezing him right there. He's ready to squeeze him.
And so this panel, in a previous stream I looked at and I complimented it a lot. I like how this was done. Your artist did a good job.
Thank you.
But it had. Oh yeah.
I wish I could show you because I do the layouts, so I'm not just the writer. So I do the layouts for my artist. Sometimes I'll just do a tic-tac-toe board with 9 panels, and then he'll laugh at me. I mean, if you think I'm drawing 9 panels, you're on crack. I can do this in 5 panels, and then we'll spend the weekend going back and forth. But this was, if I could show you, this very much was my layout that my art. But absolutely, my artist took it and ran with it, and does amazing work with it.
Of course, I see hints of old panels of Brainiac and stuff like that. So. There is a certain everything's becomes similar at some point, but what I loved about this is as he's getting his way out of here, first off, he's got a secret under the eye patch. Okay, that's going to need explanation in the next book. What's going on with this laser coming out of his head? And then this contingency thing that I've called it is right there as Earl pops his chest open. With Batman, they've overwritten him to the point where I knew this was going to happen, so I prepared things. And instead, Earl's just been living with a bomb in his chest for just in case one day,
Well, that's yeah. That's how he won the war. He was doing a lot of EMP stuff. So yeah, he's got EMPs in his 2 feral rodents.
Yeah. So it all ties back. Okay. Yeah, that's what I love. So I love the book by the end of it. I was like, that was really clever without being a cheap Batman trick.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And
this is my exposure to IEDs that sort of got to that. But.
Great. The emotional damage you've taken has entertained us all. Let's see, Mobig says, did this dude just use on crack as a pejorative?
I got my glow-in-the-dark rock right there, eh? Hey, bow, crack pack right there. Not real crack, don't worry.
It's just uranium. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's up late at night worrying about her new man.
Yeah. Yeah. What happened to poor Dexter? Well, she does ask right away, what happened to Dexter? So she very much is concerned about him.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Hi, pretty lady. And she hates those things.
Yeah. And she's stuck in a jail cell. Yeah.
This is just lovely. Okay, so since this has come out, you've got a lot of people who've read half of it, and here's Joseph Stalin. We're back to him again.
Right. So he's the one that set him up, right? He's the bastard who tricked Dexter and tried to have her murdered.
But he's taking orders from the Shogun.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they all know a bit more about what's going on outside our solar system than we figured out yet.
So since this has come out, how has this was interesting and gruesome. You're like I'm not sure which way I'd go on that. Which way is he going to go? That's the way he went. All right.
That's a tie back to seppuku, right? If you're a dishonored samurai, you're supposed to kill yourself.
Yeah, I noticed. I wondered. Sorry.
She gave him the easy way out. She put a bullet in the gun.
Yeah. So I wondered with the seppuku, it's supposed to be a way to regain your honor, and there's somebody else there to behead you.
Right.
So I wondered if she was going to behead him when he shot himself or anything like that. But
she makes it clear that, or I'm going to use my swords creatively, so there was going to be a lot more violence involved.
Yeah, I figured she's probably not going to consider him honorable after any of this.
Right.
All right. So to be continued. Since this has come out, how have things changed for you?
Good question. For starters, that feeling of accomplishment that I actually did what I set out to do. I mean, I finally did it. I finally made a comic book. I finally took the story that I said I was going to do sometime and that I may not have ever gotten around to, and I made it happen. I successfully achieved 2 dreams in one lifetime. So that is a personal accomplishment. You can't put a price tag on that. But just getting it out in the world, how much it tied me back in the community, how I've been able to share my book, and so far everyone has backed it, has picked it up, has loved it and enjoyed it, which I truly appreciate. It would have crushed me if people picked this up and just tore it to pieces, but luckily it hasn't been. All in all, my feedback has been majority positive, which is
good.
A relief.
I do remember when we met, I was making comments while you were on Red Valkyrie's stream. Yeah. And it was that, and I hope from the attitude you said you usually have, you can understand I am a bit too loosey-goosey, too loosey-goosey for my own good. I forget what you called it, but going back and forth with you about how to count pages has been a lot of fun, but it's been intended as fun.
I learned, yes. You count interior pages. I wish somebody would have told me this.
Yeah.
You count interior pages. Say the interior page number. Don't confuse people.
Yeah. And a sheet of paper, you count both
4 sides. It's got 4. It's got 4 pages. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Driving myself insane. Yeah.
When I saw something like it's 44 pages, and I was like, oh, okay, so it's just a hair short of normal, stuff like that. And then it came out that no, it's 88 pages. It's 44 sheets, unless you count a sheet as unfolded, and then it's 22 sheets. Okay.
Right. Again, just learning how to make a comic book, it's embarrassing, but thank God there's a community there to lift me up.
Speaking of which, how did you end up getting hooked up with that's the wrong word to use. How did you end up acquiring the editorial services, I must be specific, of Red Valkyrie?
Yeah, so I was just paying attention online to what everyone had to offer.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing with finding an artist was finding a sequential artist. So everyone will gladly, I'll do a cover for you, or I'll do some trading cards for you. But hey, do you feel like doing 92 pages of sequential work for the next 2 years? It's harder than,
Yeah.
Like I know artists are desperate for money, but it is hard to find someone to make that commitment. So that's how I ended up with Gonzalo. I went through artist portfolios on Facebook, and I slowly narrowed down. I had a couple Comicsgate artists in there, but I had my, choice 1 through 5, and Gonzalo just kept ending up on the top of the list. So that was when I reached out to Gonzalo, and he was on board. So that's how I took care of him. Obviously, Kurt Hathaway from Image Comics fame. He's probably lettered 3,000 comics. I'm a huge Image Comics fan from the 90s. Right when they first formed Image Studios, I tried to buy every single Image comic that existed, and eventually I gave up. There was just too much for my wallet. But I reached out to Kurt once Dan Fraga came, and I was like, oh, shoot. And then he was more than happy to jump on as my letterer. And then watching Red Valkyrie, they had a show called Writing Pros. I don't know if they still do it. They still do the Writing Pros show. But I was watching a few episodes of Writing Pros, and they said they did editor work. So I reached out to them and said, hey, do you interested in being my editors? Because I enjoyed the show, and I thought their perspective would, and it did. Thank God I hired them.
Mm-hmm. So. There's some other good editors out there. Michael Oden is one. He's the guy behind the Embrace books, and even he knows he needs an editor as a writer. And then Global Frequency. He's
Yes,
he,
Neff.
he does editing. Yeah, Neff does editing services. I would absolutely trust him.
Nice. Yeah, always have a second set of eyes. No matter how good you are, have a second set of eyes to see the things that you aren't seeing. It's probably the best. Like,
And then what came next? Oh yeah, so this started with way more dialogue. How did you said that you did a lot of the layouts and that your artist changed a lot of stuff from 9 panels to 5 or whatnot?
Yep.
But really, how did any of that change the story itself?
no, the story stayed consistent. Definitely, bottom line, that page still had to cover the same amount of ground that it had to cover, regardless. So that would be where the compromise would end. The amount of story I need to tell on this page, is it still achieved? And if it is, then that would be the final blessing to go forward. So
Okay, cool. So this rattled around. You started it was 30 pages by what 2005ish. 30 pages.
I wrote the first chapter. I just wrote the first chapter in 30 pages, which turned out to be only 6 pages of the comic.
Yeah, and which is kind of like an Alan Moore script. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
I wondered, like, why are just a few sentences highlighted? And then I read the whole page. I'm like, now I know. Yeah, that's why it is. But so was it really just those last 14 months that you put the rest of the story together, or was it all percolating here and there over the years?
No, it really was. Like I said, just, going back to March 2020, I finally blew the dust off and I said, all right, let's revisit this again. And then I read, okay, let's take this seriously. How do I make a comic book? How do I actually physically make one of these? Who do I need to hire? How is it done? Reading different panels, different perspective. 22 panels by Wally Wood. I didn't know at the time that was Wally Woods, but I had heard of 22 panels, and just researching how to make a comic book. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right.
Okay. And sometimes you show little videos with your little boy. How old does he have to be before he's allowed to read this book?
14. I always say it's 14 and above. So even, I've lost a couple sales being at markets and stuff because someone will bring their little kids. I'm like, you don't want your child reading this comic book. You're going to be mad at me. So
how many beheadings are in this book?
Yeah, right. A lot of it.
I get very sympathetic to pain and suffering. So when I see people being injured in books, I'm still always like, oh, what were the last moments that person perceived before they,
There's that one moment where that one bounty, he's already been stabbed in the side, and he looks up and sees the knife handle and still punches him in the same place on purpose, right?
Yeah.
Just double impact the pain right there. Right?
Oh, thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
By the way, I really like the video you put out with your little boy of the two of you jamming along to Led Zeppelin.
Yes.
That was cute.
That's because he had a Led Zeppelin shirt. It's like, have you ever heard any Led Zeppelin? Do you even know what you're missing? So yeah, I introduced him to that song. And then I was like, okay, I got to film this. This is too funny. This is too cute.
Well, him trying to find the beat too is like... Yeah. All right, so this is issues 1 through 3. I think these are very generous 32-page books. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
And how did the price point end up becoming so low by going to Arrow?
Okay, yeah. So my printing costs here in Canada, my distribution costs would have been like through the roof, right? So in order for me to mail to, like, say, Chicago, it costs about $25 US for me to mail. Sorry, California, not to Chicago. Chicago's close. For me to mail to California is about $25 US. But obviously, Luke's mailing. Well, he was originally going to mail out of Florida, but now he's in Indiana, which puts him really central. He can ship across the United States for the same as I can ship across Canada, but it's just like $10 US. So drastically different than it would have cost me.
Yeah, there's a 21 Demons is a book that's on Fun My Comic now. I think it's Tank Ferret might be related to that book. I might be mixing up who's in it or not, but they're printing that one in the UK and over in the US simultaneously just to be able to ship it around more cheaply.
Right. It's the way to do it. I mean, we live in a digital age. Like, I get it. Everyone's always worried about first print. But do you really think when they mass produce, like, what's it called? Harry and Meghan, when they mass produce Buddy's novel, do you think they only printed it in one store and sent it around the world? No, they printed it at 30 different printers simultaneously at the same time. We need to take advantage of that. Ultimately, that savings shouldn't go in our pocket, though. It should go in the backer's pocket. Right.
And besides, why do I want a first print book that 50 disgusting people have handled? You know, like I'll take a third print. It's okay. With, you know, corrections to the spelling and whatnot.
No, there's such low print runs anyway. Like my graphic novel, there's only 300 copies of that in the entire world. Like,
really?
Does it really matter? Yeah, there's only 300 of them. So,
that's more rare than the Crow hardcover.
Right. Yeah.
By a fifth.
Yeah.
I mean, holy cow. Okay, so why the decision to go to floppies?
Okay, so I wanted to continue the story. So I started this back in 2020. I don't know if you remembered back in 2020, but I'm not going to say things were different, but you would have, even without the artist present, a book would end up on a couple people's show, and just them saying, this looks really good, back this, that book would get 10K, that book would get 15K, right?
Right.
So I didn't realize it was COVID spending money, but I looked at the amount of people I was competing with. I looked at the projects that were raising that money, and I did say to myself, oh, I could definitely do better than that. And I did believe that if I put my book out and it got in front of the right people, and the right people said, hey, this is really good, and back it, I was positive I was going to make like 10 to 20 grand, right? And plus, I didn't know how much it was going to make one of these books. Now I know how much it costs to make a trade paperback. It's not, I can't keep going and make another trade paperback. I simply don't have the money to do it. But I was able to raise, what was it, 7,000 US? That covers the cost of making issue 4. So I said, you know, it says to be continued. I raised $7,000. I most definitely can make issue 4 Soltac, and that's what I did with the money. So.
Yeah, I did enjoy how this had closure. That, you know, the bad guys got their due, which is sort of one of those. In order to meet a self-imposed code for Hollywood, it always had to be that for a long time it had to be that, you know, bad guys always got punished. You know, nobody ever got away. That sort of thing. Sort of like the end of the Bourne. Was it the Bourne? Yep. One of the Bourne movies. The guy gets shot in the alley. You know. Yep. So
eventually catch up to him. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know you have your EMP pulse and so Dexter gets out. But a lot, man, there's so much blood in this book. Holy cow. Which reminds me, yeah, we have this. I hope there are as many copies of this one too. Turn the camera back on. Yeah, we have the blood and ink copy. There it is.
No, even less of those. There's like 200 or something of those. That's it.
Oh, well, let me put the gloves on. Jeez. Yeah. So, where are we? All right, no,
I've got less than 100. I've got like 70 of them left, I think, here. So
in Canada.
Yeah, at my house.
So are you guys doing one print run or one print and then a bulk shipment to Luke or vice versa?
No, when we printed these out, I got the printing that I needed for my own order, plus how many I wanted for my own personal collection. So I basically wanted 100 of each just for myself, just for the rest of my life. So I ordered 100 of the color for myself, 100 of the black and white, 100 of each of the single issues, and then what I needed to fulfill the Canadian orders, which was 30 books, I think, 30 of each. And then Luke did the bulk of the U.S. fulfillment and the worldwide fulfillment, and he needed about 100 copies of each.
Okay. Yeah, when I got this, I didn't know what it was because I got 3 packages at once. They said they're all from Luke Stone. I'm like, why didn't you just put them in one box?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. They're not contaminating each other. You know?
Right. Save yourself some money on shipping.
Yeah. I mean,
he didn't do it all himself. A lot of his shipping actually is his wife and his kids did while he was in the hospital. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So blame the family. Right. Always blame the family.
It's just incredible, his dedication to, as soon as he woke up out of his coma, he was on the phone like, I've got comic books to deliver. Like, that's not the first thing you need to worry about. But,
I can't walk and I can barely use my throat, but like, I get things going. Right. Yeah. Oh, that's really sad though, that he woke up to, there we go. Here's blood. Yeah. He woke up to discover that Liberty Comics deal was sour.
Yeah. But I mean, that's how Arrow Comics came to come back. So I mean, you always got to pull the positive out of this, right? And it wasn't for Arrow Comics, you know, Soltac might not have even happened. I was in a very dark place. I don't know if you remember that whole story, what happened to me.
No, go right ahead.
So I got canceled by my local comic book convention. They found out that I have affiliations with Comicsgate. So not that I ever said anything degrading, or because I mean, I treat everyone equally. I treat everyone with decency and respect, and I don't judge anyone, right? I mean, basic human nature, and that's how most human beings are, right? I don't give anyone special treatment, and I don't treat anyone differently. But long story short, I was at a comic convention 2 days as a volunteer, and I mean, they kept telling me I was amazing. I was relieving artists at their booths and watching their stuff. I was bringing people coffee. I was driving people to the airport, bringing them to restaurants. You know, I was being a gopher. You know, sitting at the front handling ticket sales. I did this for 2 days. But somebody figured out that I was on cg.org and realized I was tied into Comicsgate. So they rushed in and then they basically badmouthed me to the owner of the convention. And then they put out a denunciation letter saying I'm part of a movement. So, of course, people are going to, you know what I mean, throw you under the bus for no reason.
Right.
Completely unjustified. I didn't insult anybody. So obviously I took it to Ethan. What else am I going to do with it? And Ethan, like, look what these jerks are doing to me for absolutely no reason, but because I'm an independent creator and I support independent creators. He made a video of it, which ended up with $2,000 worth of sales. So thank you so much, Ethan. Like huge wave of sales because of that. Then they banned me from the convention. They banned me from the local comic stores because, you know, so IGG caught wind of it. Then they started messing with my disbursement and they almost refunded my 96 backers. So I almost found myself paying out a print cost and I would have been sitting on a mountain of books with 0 sales. I came that close. But that's what drew Luke Stone in. Luke saw the predicament I was in and he offered Arrow Comics to take my IP and then they would help promote it. They would get it in Arrow Comics distribution, Arrow Comics on Amazon, and help bring it out to Comic Cons. And he showed me how much he could print my books for, which is about a third of what it would have cost me to print it myself, which is hands down. You're gonna save me that much in printing? Like, sold. Let's do this. So
Good. Well, you said you were in a dark place. You know, I was. Well, one, I knew that story, but I didn't know what you were. You know, I didn't know necessarily what you were referring to. And you say you were in a dark place. It sounds like when somebody says that, to me they're talking about an emotional thing.
yes,
And
well, it was.
yeah.
I almost found myself sitting on a mountain of books. Can you imagine my IGG had refunded? That would have destroyed me.
Oh yeah, because with every refund they commit, you lose a transaction processing fee. So
And
it's
that person
more,
might not come back. Like,
yeah. So it costs you if you make 5 sales and they get 5 refunds, you're negative now. You know.
Yep.
It's terrible. But I'm glad Luke was able to step in for you and get you looped into the thing that was happening for him.
And I can remember the right thing. IGG did the right thing, and they did pay me out. So
Good.
I don't want to slag them.
Good. And you know, I do understand why CG got a bad reputation. You know, even though I can look at the accusations and say that's not factually accurate, but then there's stuff that has gone on where I'm like, I know
2016 was crazy, right? It was crazy.
But I can look at I mean, even after CG became a thing, it's like, yeah, I can understand why. How do I say this? It's separate. It's all separate categories. So in one category, tons of false accusations. In another category, you just see people jerking around and go, I don't want to be part of that. You know, stuff like that. So you don't want to be a jerk and justify the false accusations. Is where I'm going, because people will blur those categories. They don't, you know, understand there. So that's always a problem. When I see misbehavior in CG or big attitudes or egos, to me it's just or clout chasing, especially. It's just destructive. One thing, just for example, one thing I early on, because I'm not being confronted on this right now, I don't have to actually tell the story thoroughly. Early on, when I first got a Twitter account, I saw some people who were on their way into CG, and I knew that, tearing down someone they didn't know who it was in order to get attention from a bigger name. And I'm like, no, you know what? I saw that. I'm never backing you. Two people. And no, I don't like that crap. Grow up. You know, so I do understand why CG people give CG a bad name, but what's really going on here is supposed to be mutual support. And you know, thankfully, Luke, and then anything where person attacked for CG, Ethan's going to promote that, of course. So, but yeah, I'm really glad Luke was able to step in for you with the publishing deal too, just because, no, we're here to support each other.
Yes. Oh, he saved me. He did very much. That's why I'm loyal to FMC and loyal to Arrow and loyal to Luke, and I was praying, like I was legitimately praying, like please don't let this fail, and like my prayers were answered. So.
Well, we shouldn't tell Luke he's an answer to prayer. We don't want an ego developing. For all the pastors I don't trust, I still trust Luke. You know, hey.
Yes, that's us. Right.
Anyway, but that was a whole lot to say. what books are you interested in? Did you have a book you might want to talk about? Show us.
So sure. So I dug out 3. So for starters, I dug out Kozor. I think we already did the Kozor one. We held that one up. But I brought out 2 sci-fi books that I know that sequels are coming out to shortly. So for starters, Star Circuit by Joe Catapano. He's coming out with Star Circuit 2. I believe that's crowdfunding now. Did you have a chance to read Star Circuit?
No, I haven't. I have the book, have not read it.
Okay, so this is a phenomenal sci-fi story. So, not going too much. His name's The Metric. It reminded me a lot of Aeon Flux. You know how in Aeon Flux you have the 2 worlds and basically like the Berlin Wall scenario where some of the people live in luxury on one side and everyone else on the other side is struggling, right? You only have 2 classes, those who have and the have-nots. Well, that's what happens a lot in this world is you have the 2 classes of people. And without spoiling too much, Metric is from the side of the haves, but he wants to venture on the dark side. So he hangs around on the have-not side, and that's part of the secret. And it's a motorcycle culture and these motorcycle races. And if you win at these motorcycle races, you elevate your standing in life, right? But it's just science fiction. It's just super cool. He gets into like basically a rebel faction, in the circuit. And then they realize what's going on. They realize who he is. And I can, instead of just showing the cover, show you some of the artwork. Kanan White drew it.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, I like Kanan. I like Kanan White's art, but he always does the assembly of people type covers without being an action scene. So it's good to see him do an interior.
Yeah, Kanan White interiors.
Yeah,
but, I just dig it. It was just a Blade Runner, Aeon Flux, sci-fi. Like you see some of those panels, that's really cool, right? So I enjoyed this. I sat down one sitting, read my way through Star Circuit. I really liked it. Looking forward to Star Circuit 2. And one that I was pleasantly surprised with was Nephilim Squadron by Hex Allen. I don't know if you've read this.
I started to, and he, I don't want to reveal too much. He asked me not to talk about it too much yet for reasons I can't remember right now. So I'll avoid it as well. But I will say it reminded me. What's that one where they fight the bugs? Oh, it's gonna bother me. It's got Neil Patrick Harris. Yes, I can see the bug exploding. It's, not Frontline Soldiers. I have the novel on my shelf.
I know it's gonna bother me. I'll get it. I'll get there. But that movie totally reminded me of that. I mean, it's terraforming planets, conquering planets, dealing with an alien hive. You know, we got to fight back the bugs. So it very much reminded me of that. Just as fun, just as exciting, and I was very pleasantly surprised.
What I remember from the beginning of that is also dealing with their own internal politics while there's an external threat, but they're not unified inside. Yeah.
Yeah, it's again very, very similar. You'll see those in the Nephilim Squadron. So those are the 2 big sci-fi books that I thoroughly enjoyed, probably the most, along with Kozor.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sorry. Kozor is not sci-fi. Apparently, it's officially grim dark. That is what my pothead fellow weightlifter called it.
It's gonna bug me what that movie is called. Sorry.
I could run over to the shelf and
I'll get an answer.
The chat will wait. I get a lot of replay rather than live. I appreciate my
Starship Troopers.
There it is. but they have to wait for us to look things up online. Well, hey Craig, thank you very much for joining me tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for talking, and I'm so glad you enjoyed Soltac. And as you know, the next one's being worked on, Soltac issue 4. If people ever want a sneak peek, they can go look at that on Fund My Comic, and I've got, I think, 4 or 5 pages of that, as well as in the new trailer. You can get a bit of a hint of what's coming next.
Oh, cool. And I did put the new trailer at the beginning of the stream, and then what do we have? Oh yeah, for Soltac 4, if you're in the States, it should come to $20. So $20 for a 32-page floppy, and I think
that's including shipping and handling. Yeah.
Yes. We got a link coming up. You can check out Steve, that Star Wars boy, starting soon. Yeah, one of my usual guys who sometimes watches, Crazy Mad, will be on this in 30 minutes. He'll be on this stream that's linked right now.
Nice.
What else we got? I think that's about it. It's time to put the orange back together. Did I? There we go. That is a fan. That's a real fan. Anyway, hey, I appreciate you being here. I loosely say, sorry I didn't get better notes or any notes before trying to interview you.
I had a great time. I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
No problem. I appreciate you you giving everybody your time, and hopefully people will enjoy the replay too. So Mo Biggs says, "Hail the panel, hail the chat." Everybody, take care of each other. Craig, take care of your family.
Oh, thank you.
And let's see, we're out of here. Me first.
All right.